I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing 20 Strong Etherfields, part of Chip Theory's new line of 20 Strong games. In fact, there's going to be 3 reviews today. I don't know the order of the reviews, but we'll be covering all 3 of the 20 Strong games, Etherfields, Tainted Grail, and Nemesis. This is part of their new series of 20 Strong, which is a collaboration with Awakened Realms, using their IPs, but in the 20 Strong system. I will jump a little bit all over the place over here, but first several things to cover. First of all, prototype, all rules, components have to change. I believe this is using, the prototype cards for Etherfields plus the regular dice from 20 Strong. I believe they'll be different. Prototype. The main thing is prototype. I'm just using a big collection box of 20 Strong. So prototype is number 1. I'll have a link to the crowdfunding campaign down below is number 2. And then some overview around what's going on here. This is a game based on the 20 Strong system. I will assume for the purpose of this review that you know what 20 Strong system and how it operates to the most part. Otherwise, some of the things I talk about will be a little harder to follow. But in case you don't, the general idea of the 20 Strong system is going to be very condensed, so it still helps if you know things, is that you have 20 Strong dice. You have 3 dice representing your attributes over here, your health, your strategy, and your recall, and then you have 17 dice over here representing your warriors. Basically, these are dice you're going to be committing and slowly losing as you exhaust them while attempting to take down various enemies on your way down to generally to take down a boss at the end of it. Again, every 20 Strong game is a little different, but generally you have dice, you will be facing off against enemies, you'll be rolling those dice, exhausting your dice, and your goal is to manage your resources in this game. Your goal is to bump up your recall so you can pull back more dice every round, because otherwise you're going to run out. You want to bump up your strategy so you can carry more items and have more battle rounds, more rerolls before you're done with a battle sequence. And you want to have more health because dying is not good in these games, and having more health is honestly my least favorite attribute, but sometimes it's necessary. Having more health helps you survive those few times where you weren't able to handle everything the game throws at you. Outside of that, every 20 Strong game is a bit different, but they generally follow a structure of having a bunch of regular enemies you can face off against through multiple waves, and eventually having bosses you can face off against. And again, there's a lot of games. Usually this uses their own IPs, so for example, it has 20 Strong, we have Hoplomachus, we have Too Many Bones, we have Cloudspire, there might be others. There's Solar Sentinels, the original game in the 20 Strong universe, its own unique kind of IP, so to speak. Then there's a series of 20 Strong Tanglewoods. Tanglewoods kind of did a 20 Strong collaboration, which is more of a fairy tale vibes to it, and now they're doing this Nemesis, Awakened Realms, Nemesis, Tainted Grail, and Etherfields collaborations. That's kind of some general background. But each game is a solo puzzle. You can play with others, but it's a solo puzzle. You're making decisions together if you want to, or just playing yourself as you try to not die. Now this one is based on Etherfields. Etherfields is a dreamlike game from Awakened Realms that has you exploring and interacting with any kind of story or adventure you go through, and it has this kind of fugue-like state to the general theme of what you're doing. The way this game, the way 20 Strong Etherfields maintains that theme, so to speak, is you have your central dice, your health is going to start off on this card, and it's going to have the ability to move around and then to explore and add new map cards. I'll show you how that works in a second. But then a central mechanic, a key aspect of the way this game is different than other 20 Strong games, is that the cards come into play on their A side, but then many things throughout the game, defeating enemies, playing cards, so many different things will cause you to flip cards. Different cards, your influence cards in your hand, your map cards, your enemy cards. Cards are constantly flipping, and whenever you play the game or shuffle decks, you're diving into the cards from wherever those cards' last state was. So again, if I flip a map card, if this map card gets flipped from A to the B side, it's going to be on the B side until the next time it gets flipped back in some way. That's the core aspect of maintaining this kind of dreamlike state or identity as you play through the game. The general idea is you are going to have this hand of cards over here. You're going to go into a sequence every round. You start by discarding a card. That's going to go to the discard pile, and then you go ahead and draw back up to 5. You can discard more if you want to, but that gives you some degree of control, but it also does mean that you're cycling through your deck faster, and that's going to cause issues for you. When you have to shuffle a deck, it's going to hurt, so you kind of want to avoid doing that. You'll do it, but you want to avoid doing it as much as possible. We have the central boss we're trying to take out, and again, that can be from a variety of bosses, as well as from different sides of bosses. Again, that's the A and B side mechanic. Right now we're playing against the Warden over here. If there are at least 7 map cards in the area, then we can confront him and deal with him. So bosses have a way that they are engaged with, in this case having 7 map cards in the active area, which might seem easy. It's a little harder than you think, as well as the fact that other cards are constantly causing cards. Which way was my hand? You have to be careful. I don't remember which way my hand was. I think it was this way. That's it. You want to be careful how you put down your cards. But in general, many things will be causing map cards to discard while you try to work your way there. Other bosses have certain things like the Ether state over here. This is going to be constantly moving. It starts in yellow, but you'll be working it through over there. Many bosses will require that as a state. There's a boss that requires a 3x3 grid. They just have different things that are going for as far as how you engage with that boss. And your goal is survival until you engage with that boss. To that end, you're trying to wander around. You can discard cards for the basic attributes. For example, I can discard yellow to move around the board. So let's go ahead and say, and again, I'm not going to overanalyze this. We'll come back to that. But I'll go ahead and discard this card for its yellow value to be able to move into an adjacent space. And from there, there's no enemy in this space. This space over here would require an enemy, so I'll have to engage with an enemy. The flip side of that, the counter, so to speak, of this, is that to explore from this card costs 4, to explore from this side costs 2. So I'd have to discard 4 warts. So let's go ahead and say, go ahead and discard those. And you can discard cards with those values. You can also exhaust unexhausted dice with those values, or even items you have in play with those values. So right now I'm just going to discard 4 in order to explore a new card, placing that card out. So again, you get new cards out, they'll be entering the game system. That's how you slowly build towards cards. But as you can see, I now have to deal with this. I have to move around the board. I have to go there to further try to explore or go to another region, and there's an enemy I'll have to engage with. You're going to be engaging with enemies in several ways. Aside from the final boss encounter, you're going to engage with enemies when you wander onto a card that has that enemy icon, at which point you'll be drawing a new enemy, and some of these cards will have you drawing new enemies from the cards themselves, and you have to have an engagement with that enemy, which we'll talk about in a second. The other way is at the end of each round, you'll also engage with enemies, so you can't just stand still forever. The timers on this game, so to speak, are as your influence deck runs out, that will cause bad things to happen, and sitting in still means at the end of every round there's an engagement, that causes bad things to happen. So you're trying to power up, you're trying to move your way through the system in order to set yourself up so you can actually face off against the boss before you run out of resources, or even just power yourself up to be able to bump up your strat and your recall so you can go ahead and get more resources back into the system and be strong enough to take down the boss. When an enemy comes into play, let's go ahead and move some of these things off to the side. When an enemy comes into play, you'll be facing off against them. They have a health value, they have attack value, they have various abilities. This is going to be very similar to the general 20 strong system. If you're familiar with that, a lot of this will be pretty straightforward. But basically, whenever you have a combat, you get to choose any of your unexhausted dice, and you get to go through a number of strategy phase equal to your strat level over here. In my case right now, I only have 1, so I get to roll those dice hoping to take it out. And again, there's a sequence there. It's a little more, it's not super complicated, but there's a sequence as far as how that resolves. Immediate effects, taking out enemies, damage enemies will deal to you on once you kill them or once you hurt them, and damage they'll deal if they're still alive. They have different effects depending on the various effects those enemies have. But again, in this game, because of that, you often have things like when this enemy is activated, flip one influence card in your hand, then discard it. So looking at my hand, I'd have to flip one of these cards. So let's say I go ahead and flip this and then discard it, and now we've permanently changed, or I guess temporarily changed, one of the cards in the game. So they have lots of effects like that that will trigger when enemies come out, when you defeat enemies, when they attack you, all those kinds of things. That's the basic idea of 20 strong Etherfields. You are exploring the board. You are exploring the board so that you can create the situation, the board state, such that you can then take on the boss and hopefully defeat the boss. Along the way, you're dealing with your hand of influence cards, which we didn't talk about this, by the way. But there's also so many abilities on these cards. So you can discard, you can use the cards for the attributes, but you can also use the cards for the abilities or even for the items. This mechanical shotgun over here, this is a very fun one. You get to go ahead and exhaust a ready die to gain 2 damage. Another thing we didn't talk about is I talked about the green value is often going to be used for exploring, the yellow value is used for moving, and the red value is used to deal damage to enemies. So in addition to the dice themselves, you can even discard your cards to deal damage to enemies, but again, that will cause you to cycle through your deck faster. So everything's a choice as far as what bad thing are you triggering, which timer mechanism are you slowly running through as you attempt to survive the system. Anyways, that's enough about how this one generally plays. Past that, again, if you're familiar with 20 strong, there's bosses, there's heroes, the set of different heroes with their regular side, as well as the lucid state, which is another aspect of the game. But that's basically what you need to know as far as 20 strong Etherfields, which brings us to my review of 20 strong. And I'll start with, as usual, with these videos. And I'm sorry if you watch all 3 videos, you'll hear this 3 times today. Anyways, my general opinion of 20 strong is it's a system I really love. I find it to be a very compelling, accessible solo experience that generally plays in 30 minutes to an hour, depending on which one you're playing, depending on how fast you are. But I'd say generally you're sitting down for 45 minutes-ish, give or take a little bit, as you try to power yourself up and survive what the system throws at you, making your way through it. I generally enjoy the 20 strong games. Each one I do rate individually. Overall, they're all slightly different as far as the vibes, the settings, the mechanics they introduce, and so I've enjoyed all of them. Every single 20 Strong game, this one included, I've enjoyed. But the overall system does have ones that are better or worse, and unfortunately, Etherfields is one of my least favorite ones, probably my least favorite 20 Strong game to date. It's still good. I'll skip to rating on this one, I'll talk about it again in final thoughts, but it's a 3.5 out of 5. It's still a good, enjoyable experience. It's just that I'd rather play other 20 Strong games, and there's two main reasons for it, because this game does do a lot of things that I think are really fun and really creative, and it manages to capture that feeling of Etherfields a little bit. Abstracted, this is not Etherfields, but it manages to capture that feeling a little bit. I like that fugue stake mechanic, although it does feel a little bit more gimmicky, the fact that cards are just flipping all the time, because it's not always clear when a card is better or worse as it's flipping. It's just changing the state of the cards in the game, which is interesting, but it's like, it's cutesy. Like, there is this weird aspect, like, ooh, I have to flip a card. Like, is that going to be better for me or worse for me? Am I, like, there's a cards that are going to be like, when you use this, flip it, and then you're like, ooh, am I making the system better for the next time I play it? Am I making the system worse? Like, they don't reset game to game, so in theory, the game has to be balanced across multiple plays. It's not that one play should be easier or harder, so on average, it should work out. So it is cute. I like the concept. I don't know if it's meaningfully an improvement other than just exposing yourself to other cards game to game. Sure, it does mean that you can't like come up with that perfect combo. I'm going to use that shotgun, I'm going to use the one that actually lets me add an extra 2 damage whenever I use a red die. You can't combo things with perfect guarantee. You never can because you don't know what you're going to draw into, but certainly less so here where you don't even know which cards are in the game until you go through the decks. So I guess if the problem it's fixing is the desire to build out your similar sets each time, you certainly can't do that. But again, it does feel a little bit more gimmicky as far as like trying to maintain that dreamlike state. Again, I like it. I don't dislike it. I just don't know if it's really that impressive. It's just a cute mechanic that feels thematic, but doesn't change the actual way the game is going to play for the most part. That's that whole mechanic. The board exploration, though, I don't love this. This one, it's not bad, but like, I guess if I'm thinking of 20 Strong games that have some degree of board movement, I much prefer Hoplomachus's board movement to this. And there's a few reasons. First of all, the game in general looks great, but this little mini-map with a die moved around as a counter, it just doesn't feel like super, I don't know, I'm not like, it doesn't feel like great from a visual optic standpoint. It feels very Tiny Epic, which I'm not hugely a fan of Tiny Epic in general, and it feels like that movement state onto the cards, just the way the cards are all divided up. You have the hard lines, you have the sections, like it just doesn't, and again, maybe prototype, maybe the final game will change the way things look, and maybe I'll feel a lot better about it, but moving a die around a board in that kind of abstracted way, it's not bad, it works, functionally speaking it works. I'd rather move my way, like when I think of 20 Strong Tanglewoods and moving your way through the Slay the Spire-esque chart, that feels so much better as far as a movement system while still engaging with enemies. This one feels less cool to me personally. And then the other issue I have with it, and this is a pro and a con, is the hands full of influence cards. These give you a ton of options, like an absolute ton of options between the card values, between the card abilities. Constantly, whenever the main issue I had when playing this is that I'm constantly faced with a degree of AP, analysis paralysis, in the sense that I want the cool abilities on the cards, but I have to discard the card to go ahead and move, or to explore, to do all those things, and I'm constantly looking at the cards and the abilities and trying to think through, okay, well, which things can I hold on to, which things can I benefit, which things should I discard, which things should I flip and get rid of. There's too many abilities that gave me a degree of AP of slowing me down because you're cycling through an entire ability deck in a way that's significantly faster than normal items in a 20 Strong game. Like, there is an item deck. This item deck over here is going to be your items, but many of these function as items in terms of their ongoing abilities and count against your strat level or whatnot there. So there's just a lot of AP as far as having too many abilities and constantly cycling through them every time you play through it. The net result of all of it is the things it does better. I don't know if there are things that it does significantly better than other 20 Strong games. That's maybe the 3.5 is a little bit too harsh of a rating, 3.5 to 5. Maybe it's a little too harsh of a rating because I'm comparing it against other games in the system that do the same thing, but in my opinion with a theme I prefer, and I mean I think all of them I prefer the theme as well as the non what's the right word for it? Friction that this one introduces. So it's not that this one's bad in any way. Like your heroes fun ability. Final argument, crits on dice matching the current ether, deal 1 damage, deal +1 damage. That's incredible. You can deal a 3 damage hit over there. That's a lot of fun to be able to like knock those off and they push you into those rolls, building a deck around that. So you have items as far as an entire item deck over here with all kinds of abilities, an entire influence deck with all kinds of abilities, the specific heroes, the boss you're facing off against, the enemies are all different, the rewards and enemies, the decisions decision points as far as when do you tackle enemy, when do you let it deal damage to you, like what's the math of every encounter. All of those things are great, and they are fine, not fine, they're great. They're why I like the 20 strong system in general, and they're all present in this game. But I think when I think of what does this one do better, maybe you can make the argument the cycling of the influence cards over here gives you so many different options that if you are looking for that kind of quick rotation and a lot of things to think through and consider, that could be a plus. And I do think it is a plus. It just comes with the minus of that AP over every decision because you constantly have to spend those cards as well. The cards are both the currency and an ability. You have to choose when and how to use them, which just slows down the game state for me as well. And then the map element I didn't care for, and the fugue state is cute, but I don't know if it improves my experience. So overall, I think it's a good 20 strong game. I guess let's go to final thoughts here. Overall, 20 strong Etherfields is a 3.5 out of 5. I like the 20 strong system a lot. Again, it's possible I'm being a little harsher on rating. Maybe this would be a 4 out of 5 if I wasn't mentally comparing it against the other 20 strongs, but I am mentally comparing against the other 20 strongs. The other 20 strongs, I think, generally speaking, do all the things I like about this one, but better overall. If you're a huge fan of Etherfields, I definitely think this has a spot. I think it's good. I think it checks all the boxes. I think just if you like tiny epic games, you might not be as bothered by like the mini-map situation here. I find some games, when they try to mimic a bigger scale experience in a smaller scale, some games I just find myself wanting that bigger scale experience. And this particular mini-map feels like that, contrasted with Hoplomachus jumping from stacks of cards, or the 20 strong Tanglewoods where you're going through a Slay the Spire tree. Those are different forms of movement that feel more appropriate to the size of the game. This one feels like a big experience a small experience trying to give you that big experience, and that one's less for me personally. So overall, I guess my recommendation as part of this video is if you are looking for other 20 strong games, definitely check out 20 strong Tanglewoods for that kind of that arc there, and then check out 20 strongs. I mean, there's multiple Tanglewoods games, but Tanglewoods. Oh my gosh, which one is it? Gold, I think it is. I think Gold has that tree, but I could be mistaken. And then check out 20 strong Hoplomachus if you're looking for a different kind of movement system where the movement will matter as you move around a grid of cards, but differently abstracted as far as how the game engine works. Actually, I really like Hoplomachus a lot. It's one of those ones that I don't think is as popular as other 20 strong games, but I really enjoy it. Anyways, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this review of 20 strong Etherfields. Definitely check out my reviews of Tainted Grail as well as Nemesis for the full 20 strong new set of games. In any case, until next time, I hope you have a good one.